So, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the worship hall, the Mayor of Kirklees, Councillor Mumtaz Hussain. Please take your seats.
I would like to welcome you all here today. Could I please have nominations for the Mayor? Councillor Martin Bolt.
Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to be standing here in the Town Hall today. I'm sure all colleagues would agree, not only for us to see a resumption back to something like normality, but also for the annual mayor-making ceremony. Today seems to have been a long time coming, and I'm sure some of us here thought it might never come. At one time, it was reminiscent, for those of us a certain age, of the final scene of the movie Von Ryan's Express, as the hero, played by Frank Sinatra, runs towards the safety of a train, only to see it vanishing down the tracks under the hail of enemy fire, leaving him standing alone and bewildered. So Nigel got close to being the mayor, but reminiscent of the famous quote by Harold Macmillan, when asked if anything would sway him from his course of action, said, "Events, dear boy, events." Thankfully, we are here today to see the next stage of those events, with only the small matter of a vote waiting ahead. Our Mayor-designate has had a varied and interesting professional career, which I think will stand him in good stead for the coming period. Coming from a farming family, a lesson I would urge everyone to have is don't ask him how he's doing, because like all farmers, unless you have plenty of time and sympathy, the reply you'll get is he's never doing well, he's just doing okay. He succeeded academically in applied biology and microbiology, and today, being a solemn occasion, I refrain from making any comment about any comparison between that and full council meetings. He then had a slight deviation career and went to the Forestry Commission. Some may say that prepared him for his life as a councillor, talking to trees rather than banging your head on a brick wall. But again, his career changed, and he moved into a rights of way service, initially in Doncaster and later in Leeds, where that professional knowledge and experience, I'm sure, now endears him to our own highway staff. It was during this time, Mr. Mayor-designate, that you showed your forward thinking, because whilst recent administrations at Kirklees have talked about changing things and doing things the Kirklees way, our Mayor-designate actually wrote the book called The Kirklees Way. So you were quite ahead of your time there. And in doing so, Nigel, you have helped to establish our own long-distance path, which many have walked, and it's helped in our tourism industry. And there's no pressure on you to know that a former holder of the mayoralty, David Ridgway, during his term of office, walked the whole route for charity. No pressure there, Nigel. The foreword to this literary masterpiece was penned by Murfield's own Patrick Stewart, who, as I'm sure colleagues will aware, supported the Labour Party in recent elections, so Murfield doesn't always get it right. But some of Patrick's words are worth reflecting on. Speaking of the beauty of our landscape, Patrick says, in the 40s and 50s, there were many more green spaces than there are today. This book, you can tell, was written a while ago because he says Kirklees has preserved its green belt, as I say. Modern reality, we'll have to show him around. I got to know Nigel better when the Conservatives ran Kirklees from 2006. Oh, those halcyon days. But I digress. I got to know someone who cared deeply about fairness and doing the right thing and representing his community. Like many of us, his route to becoming a councillor came through supporting and working hard in that community. I believe your initial foray was objecting to an unwanted development, in that case a quarry. And again, that interest in planning has carried on. Through that community involvement, Nigel went on to Home Valley Parish Council, where you served as chairman. Also putting things back into the community, he was an active member of the Round Table organisation, representing them internationally and through table groups in Denverdale and Penistone. Latterly, I've also known Nigel as an excellent member of strategic planning. And sadly, their losses, the Mayoralty's gain. I can see some cheering already that you've now moved on to the Mayoralty, Nigel. In that role as on the planning committee, you challenged authority when necessary and gave a voice to those who may need to be heard. In the Home Valley, Nigel has been repeatedly returned by his electorate, which tells us something that despite the ups and downs of political fortune, those wise people of Home Valley South have seen fit to make Nigel their voice on this council time and time again. Councillors like Nigel, who stay as elected representative, do so out of a sense of civic duty and a passion for the community they represent. And whilst he's proud to represent the Home Valley South, I know that Nigel is determined to be a mayor for the whole of Kirklees. So in terms of advertising, if you have any events, ceremonies or crisp packets that need opening, Nigel will be there and coming to all places throughout the borough. I'm sure you'll have a map on the wall putting pins in everywhere you visited, Nigel. Later today, as we know, when you assume the office of mayor, you'll have the baptism of fire into one of the statutory duties of that office, chairing full council meetings. That's a skill in itself, and I'm sure that you're looking forward to taking on the challenge of keeping all the councils in order. As we emerge from the pandemic, the lockdowns, and the hurt so many of us have come through, we're going to need to refresh that sense of togetherness and community. And I know that Nigel, together with Judith, will be looking forward to seeing as many people in person during their period of office. The Kirklees Mayoralty, as our civic leaders and ambassadors, will have a key role in bringing us together and emerging from our dark days into light. I am therefore pleased, reassured and proud that this important role is finally being bestowed on you, Nigel. I know that one of your last duties as Deputy Mayor was in your own area, where we saw the return to sporting activity. And Nigel, if ever you feel that you want to get on your bike, we have the Mayoral civic role waiting for you, although I just need letting out of it, I think. It is now my pleasure of reading the formal wording of proposal, wording that many of us hear time and time again, but the final element is something which, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you have come more than others to recognise. I now move that Nigel Patrick is hereby elected Mayor of the Council of the Metropolitan Borough of Kirklees for the municipal year from now or until his successor accepts the office and signs the required declaration. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Could I please call on Councillor Michael Watson to second the nomination?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and indeed a privilege to stand here today for the purpose of seconding the proposal that Councillor Nigel Patrick is elected Mayor of Kirklees for the forthcoming civil year. When thinking of the office of Mayor, one might think of the Mayor as a nobleman, someone who in their own town or city has risen to the top of the civic hierarchy, to be the first citizen and representative figurehead of the town or city that they serve. If we pause for a moment to think about it, there are no doubt many famous and perhaps infamous mayors who might come to mind. Rudy Giuliani, Jean Valjean, Clint Eastwood, Boris Johnson. Each of them a noble citizen, an alderman respected and elected by their fellow citizens and councillors. And Kirklees is no different. As one walks along the corridor from the town hall from the town hall reception to the council chamber, one passes by all the photographs of all the previous mayors and members of our council who have held this noble office. Fine, upstanding men and women who have selflessly served the people of our borough. It is an office which each incumbent has held for just a short period of time before handing over their duties at the end of the year. And to this end, I would offer my personal thanks to the retiring Mayor and Mayoress, Councillor Mumtaz Hussain and Noreen, for their extended service and attention to duty over the last 2 years. As Councillor Bolt says, Councillor Patrick has faithfully served the citizens of Holmfirth and the surrounding areas with dedication for many years. He is an experienced councillor with a great deal of knowledge about the council and our area generally, which I'm sure will stand him in very good stead in the execution of his duties over the year. I know that he is committed to reaching out to all corners of the borough, and I wish both him and Judith the very best of success in the conduct of their duties for the forthcoming year. I am sure that they will both serve the entire borough diligently and dutifully, and accordingly it is also my pleasure to move that Councillor Nigel Patrick is hereby elected Mayor of the Council of the Metropolitan Borough of Kirklees for the municipal year from now until his successor accepts office and signs the requisite declaration. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any further nominations? All those in favour? That is carried.
Gentlemen, whilst the Mayor dons the robes of office, entertainment will be provided by rival sons performing Shooting Stars. Please be upstanding whilst the Mayor retires. Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Worshipful, the Mayor of Kirklees.
I would now like to invite Councillor Patrick to make the declaration of office and sign the declaration book.
I, Keith Nigel Patrick, having been elected to the office of Mayor for the Council of the Borough of Kirklees, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it, according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the Code as to the conduct which is expected of members of the Council of the Borough of Kirklees.
The civic attendant will now place the chain of office on the new Mayor of Kirklees.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I am pleased to announce that my wife Judith has agreed to be Mayoress for the coming year.
The civic attendant will now place the chain of office on the new Mayoress.
Honoured guests, members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, the day we prepared for over a year ago has finally arrived. After 12 months of uncertainty here in Kirklees and indeed throughout the world, we can start to lift our eyes to see a brighter future and a better tomorrow. No incoming mayor could ignore what has happened or fail to recognise the huge effort by people to save lives, to care for suffering, to keep the economy going, to feed people, and to work to reduce the impact of a virus on all our lives. In a moment, there will be a prayer, a moment to reflect on the year which has passed. First, though, I would like to announce that I have asked Reverend Canon Sean Robertshaw to be the Mayor's Chaplain for the mayoral year. If I could invite you to receive your Mayor's Chaplain's badge, Sean, which the Mace Bearer will present to you on my behalf. When I asked Sean if he would be the Mayor's Chaplain, he agreed on the understanding that it would take on the role provided he was involved in supporting the mayoral year. I've had no trouble including Sean in the planning for this year, and so on behalf of the whole Council, I look forward to his spiritual support and continued prayers for our work, the whole Council, and the people living in Kirklees. I would like now to invite Sean to give the prayer.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pause for just a few moments and pray to the Lord, who is our refuge and stronghold. So we pray for the health and the well-being of the nations, that all who are fearful and anxious may be at peace and free from worry. We pray for the refugee and the homeless, the isolated and the housebound, that we each may be alert to their needs and care for them in their vulnerabilities. We pray for our homes and families, our schools and young folk, and all in any kind of need or distress. Lord, we ask for your blessing on the Mayor, the whole Council and the Borough of Kirklees, that our neighbourhoods may be places of trust and friendship where all traditions, creeds and peoples are valued, known and cared for. we commend ourselves and all for whom we pray to the mercy and protection of God. Merciful Father, accept these prayers for the sake of your Son, our Saviour, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Sean, on behalf of the Council for your prayers today. Now as a Council we can move forward with some optimism, and Judith and I look forward to once again attending events throughout the borough, meeting people from all our communities, visiting businesses and schools and charities, taking difficult questions from school children, judging pets and representing the Council out of the borough, with a diary that is not full, that we intend to fill, and we plan to take an active role through this period of renewal. To help me with this task, I have invited Cadet Joseph Moutel to join the civic team. So if you'd like to come forward to receive your certificate and uniform badge, which the mace bearer will present to you on my behalf. Welcome to the civic team, Joe. Most deputy mayors only get 1 year to prepare for the honour of becoming Mayor of Kirklees. I've had 2 years to prepare. The first 12 months to attend nearly 100 events and to put together a programme of civic and charity events, and a second 12 months to adapt and change the same programme of events. Credit to the civic team and also to my charity committee for the work over what has been a difficult time. With lots of events planned, including a civic dinner in October and a Mayor's charity ball planned for March. And before anyone asks, yes, the Mayor's ball is an auction as well as a dance. It's been a pleasure to work with Noreen and Mumtaz, and I hope you enjoy your post-mayoral leave. You've earned it. Judith and I look forward to working with Councillor and Mrs Akhtar. Councillor Hussain was generous enough to let me attend many varied events, and I hope to do the same for Councillor Akhtar. I've chosen Home Valley Mountain Rescue for my Mayor's charity. It wasn't a difficult choice for me, though I have to say there are many, many worthwhile charities to choose from in Kirklees. You may think I've chosen this charity because of the name, and there might be some truth in that. But there's a short video that follows the end of this ceremony that hopefully will explain everything. The Charity Committee has organised a number of events, the first of which takes place this weekend. We've already raised a substantial amount of money through sponsorship and donations, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the companies and organisations and individuals who have contributed so far. I recognise these are difficult times and your generosity is appreciated. At the top of the ceremony today we played Shooting Stars by the American rock band Rival Sons. Why not? Isn't it time we had some rock music at Mayor Making? I hope you enjoyed it. The Chief Executive said, give us a show. So hopefully with a trumpet fanfare, a rock band and a brass band, we've nailed the brief. Had this ceremony taken place a year ago, the song Shooting Stars would have been sung by the Huddersfield Community Gospel Choir. Unfortunately, due to the situation, we couldn't do it. So Judy spoke to the Rival Sons agent and they kindly gave us permission to play the song. Did you listen to the words? The song resonates with me. It's about the importance of recognising the differences in our communities and indeed in our council chamber, and being able to accept that we share the same goals even if we come at them from a different perspective. Respect and tolerance is something this council and our councillors strive to achieve, but sometimes forget. I sincerely hope I will keep that perspective and work to support and balance the council in its council meetings. Thanks to our musical directors, our filmmakers and our artists. Thanks also to our families and our friends for supporting us. Special thanks from me to the residents of Home Valley South for trusting in me. And thank you, Council, for giving me and Judith this opportunity to represent you. We won't let you down. Thank you. So, on to the vote of thanks. Can I please call upon Councillor Shabir Pandor to move the vote of thanks to Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations on becoming the Mayor finally after a long 2 years wait, and congratulations to Judith on becoming the Deputy Mayoress. 2 years ago, on the back of the pandemic, seemed like a lifetime away, because one of the things that I reflect back on is the changes that have taken place, despite the harshness of the pandemic. I think the true quality of people and communities came together. And I think Mumtaz and both the Mayor stepped up in a situation where things were very, very difficult. Nobody knew where we stood. And I think this council was at its best I've seen. And that was actually spearheaded by the Mayor's office and the Deputy Mayor's office. So I'd like to make a special mention of that. On the back of the pandemic, there were exceptional challenges. The pandemic had a massive strain on lives and livelihoods, never seen before. And business as usual completely stopped. And that's where the voluntary sector, the community sector, and the community spirit came alive. And that's where I take my hat off to Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, who actually did a fantastic job. He actually rolled his sleeves up. Knowing Mumtaz, he couldn't stay back. And he actually got in there, stuck in the communities that he is there to serve across Kirklees. It required the Mayor's office, all our officers, and all our partners to work in a completely different way. And the helm was actually spearheaded and led by Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, and I thank you for that. He made history that he was elected for 2 years. I'm sure he probably said, yes, that's a good idea, because I think many a time we've seen mayors come and they don't want to let go of being the mayor because, you know, they get stuck in, and that's what it's about. But unfortunately, it's got to come to an end. Mumtaz has built many, many relationships, bridges across all communities, and that is the beauty of being the mayor. Because when we first come into the council chamber, we want to do something good for our residents, our communities, in our ward. And then once you grow into the role, you start seeing that actually Kirklees is a very diverse community. And Kirklees is actually a part of a bigger fabric of society, nationally and internationally. And I've seen Mumtaz grow from being first elected to then becoming the Deputy Mayor, and then the fantastic work he did as the Mayor, along with his wife, Noreen, who was always by his side. His confidence has grown, and I'm sure whatever he does moving forward, he will take that role as being one of the elected members on this council. He has put people first, and he has done that all the time. Because sometimes I was thinking that Mumtaz, you don't really need to do that. But in true Mumtaz spirit, he says, Shabir, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? And he's got to show the lead, which he has done. He has got heart of gold, and we've seen that in the last 2 years, the way he's actually embraced all communities. And true with Mumtaz, he can't sit back, you know, because I remember when we first went into the pandemic, you were ringing me nearly every day saying, oh, what do I do, what do I do? I said, look, Mumtaz, we'll find out how we can actually use the Mayor's office and Deputy Mayor's office to its full impact. And lo and behold, the way it was paved to actually take a role on in a different way. Mumtaz, you made it all proud. You've built bridges, you've built community cohesion, and you worked together in such a way that I could have never imagined that you'd have done on the back of the pandemic. I'm sure your two brothers, your four sisters, your two sons and your three daughters are all proud of you. And I know Noreen was always there on your side. She advised you, guided you, and I think you made a really good match in terms of making sure that the mayoralty was represented across Kirklees and beyond. So I can say a lot more, but time's short, so now I will go on to the formal wording. That the best thanks of the Council are due and hereby tendered to Councillor Mumtaz Hussain for the efficient and dignified manner in which he has performed the important and varied duties of the Office of Mayor during the period of May 2019 to May 2021. Also that the heartiest thanks of the Council be tendered to Mrs Noreen Hussain for her services as Mayoress. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Can I please call upon Councillor Masood Ahmed to second the vote of thanks to Councillor Hussain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm getting old now, I'm going to get my specs out. Thank you, Mr Mayor. It gives me great pleasure today in thanking Councillor Mumtaz Hussain as the outgoing Mayor of Kirklees for the immense contribution he has made in the period that we have never experienced in our lives. The COVID pandemic has shaken the world, a pandemic that has killed millions, leave a lasting scar on us for many years to come. During Councillor Mumtaz's time as Mayorship, many in our communities have been burdened with the grief of losing loved ones before their time. We send our sympathy and condolences to them all. Full lockdowns, the first I and many others in this world have seen, result in virtual meetings and thousands of people having to work from home, forcing us to live our lives in a radically different way. The virus has very suddenly shocked us into recognition of just how fragile our world is. However, it is also reminding us what really matters: our health, our community spirit, and the solidarity. Facing the worst pandemic in a century, we can be proud that it has brought us the best in our communities. And leading to Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, having served 2 terms due to the pandemic, a time we will never forget. Over the period, Councillor Mumtaz has represented his Dewsbury West constituents with great commitment, passion and dedication, working hard to represent Kirklees and to ensure his constituents' issues are resolved in a timely manner. He's a family man, just like his parents, never forgetting those who have helped him get where he is today. Married for 33 years to his wife Noreen. Together they have 5 children. A proud man on becoming the Mayor of Kirklees and a grandfather, and has been the proudest and happiest moments in his life. He has now 3 lovely grandchildren, plenty of spare time on your hands now, Mumtaz, to look after them. During the pandemic, Councillor Mumtaz supported and reached out to a number of local community groups and organisations, and has proudly volunteered at a local food bank in his ward, which he still continues to support him to this day, should I say. He has a number of memorable moments, including attending the Queen's annual garden party with his wife Noreen. meeting Malala Yousafzai, youngest Nobel Prize winner, at a school's awards ceremony. Throughout his term in office, he has highlighted the excellent work community groups, businesses, charities have done across Kirklees. He also led the tributes of citizens of Kirklees when Her Royal Highness Prince Phyllis passed away. I am personally very proud of Councillor Mumtaz and what he has achieved. And I know his parents and his older brother would have been too if they had been alive today. But he knows they are watching him from the heavens above. I hope Councillor Mumtaz's year of mayor can be marked and remembered as delivered very unique work at the time when we went through our first ever lockdown and have now begun to bring back together as one community to fully enjoy the good our communities of Kirklees. Thank you, Councillor Mumtaz, for all you have done for the residents of Kirklees. Just the formality now. If I can find my little bit. That the best thanks of the Council are due and hereby tendered to Councillor Mumtaz Hussain for the efficient and dignified manner in which he has performed the important and varied duties of Office of Mayor during the period 2019 to May 21. Also, that the hearty thanks of the Council be tendered to Ms. Noreen Hussain for her services as Mayoress. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. On behalf of Kirklees Council and the citizens of the borough, we'd like Councillor Hussain and his wife, and Mayoress Noreen, to accept a past mayor's and past mayoress's badge as a token of our appreciation. Can I please call on Councillor Hussain to reply?
Thank you. I would like to congratulate the newly elected Mayor, Councillor Nigel Patrick, for taking on the civic role as Mayor. I hope you and the Mayoress have a wonderful year and look forward of welcoming you to Dewsbury West in the year ahead. I'm truly and deeply honoured to have served as Mayor of Kirklees and Kirklees District Council for the last 2 years. I want to acknowledge and thank Shabir and Masood for their kind words and being my original proposers. I would like to thank all my colleagues in the Labour group for their support, encouragement and good wishes. The cross-party support is something I have been encouraged with. What to thank you all for being so welcoming and genuine and kind. The role of a public representative could not have been carried out without an enormous amount of support, understanding, and sacrifice from families. So I especially want to take this opportunity to thank my wife, Noreen, who has been at my side throughout the last 2 years. Noreen has taken the role very seriously and been a pillar of support for me as mayor. Noreen has even been mistaken as the mayor many times, and I've told Steve many times, can you tell the people I'm the mayor? I wasn't jealous. Noreen's commitment to the role as Lady Mayoress and my wife, I cannot thank you enough. Our children, Neelam, Halima, Sohail, Aisha, Mohsin, for their firm support has been helped me to carry out my role in public. But I don't want to really forget my grandchildren, because this morning when I got ready to come here, my grandson Hassan said to me, you better mention my name, because one day I want to become the mayor. So if you want to become the mayor, this is what you need to do. You need to work in the community, listen to your parents, and be good. And one day, inshallah, maybe you might become the mayor. You'll be standing here where your granddad is standing. And also I would like to name my other grandson, Yusuf, and my granddaughter, Khatija bin Hamza. So, representative to the best of my ability, I would like to thank my extended family, my friends, for their support and help throughout my 2 years as mayor. I simply couldn't have done this duty without them. I want to share my experience as mayor for the past 2 years. It has been real experience seeing the whole of Kirklees, meeting people from different communities, different faiths as mayor and mayoress. We were welcomed by everyone we met and made so many friends across the borough. There is no doubt that the extraordinary emergency of COVID-19 meant this was a very different and very difficult 15 months in life of this district and as mayor. I was under no illusion this is going to be a trying and testing year for our people in Kirklees. When lockdown was announced on the 23rd of March 2020, many families are impacted by the COVID-19, and it will leave a lasting scar on them for many years to come. So I encourage everyone to think about this and in the future and how quick things can change for us. We send our sympathies and condolences to them who have lost loved ones in this pandemic, not only in Kirklees, but across the country. During the last number of months, all of us have been forced to live our lives in a very different way. The coronavirus has very suddenly shocked us and recognized just how fragile our world is. However, it is always reminding us what really matters: our health, our community, and our spirit and our solidarity. Facing the worst pandemic in century, we can be proud that it has brought out the best of our community, especially those in Kirklees. We have come to value those we rely on most: our doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, supported by their families who were at the forefront at our time of need. All of our frontline workers and council officers who made sure we had the supplies we needed and who kept us safe and ensured the appropriate regulations were adhered to. The mayoress and I met so many people working in the community, helping to run charities to support local communities. I would like to thank all those people that we met throughout our mayoral year for doing good work. Without you guys, it would be difficult to help vulnerable people in Kirklees. We have at times relied on those charities. As the outgoing mayor, I would like to thank all our staff within council who we know put their shoulder to the wheel to ensure services were run as smoothly as they could for as long as they could. I want to acknowledge our senior leadership team led by our Chief Executive Jackie Gedburn, who have worked around the clock to protect our services and enabled some appearance of normality with the support of Julie Muscroft and the wider senior management team. And Jackie and Julie, there's a gift for you in the office. We couldn't bring it here because of the situation. So thank you. While recognizing the role of council played the crisis, I would also like to thank our leader Shabir Pando for the role he played in leading our borough and district through the most challenging time many of us have faced in our lifetime. I would like to thank my two charities, Diabetes UK and Samaritans, their support and awareness in Kirklees. I would also like to thank the civic team for all their support, the two Steves, Caroline, who used to work for us in the civic team and doesn't work anymore. I think she's moved on to another department. Caroline, Deborah, Laura, and Sally, you guys are fantastic people to work with. It's been a pleasure to be supported by you guys. Without you, I don't think I would have done this for 2 years. And Sally, I have no words to say. You go the extra mile. Your professionalism is something that I admire. I have really enjoyed working with you guys. Noreen and I will miss you all. However, I feel I have made new friends in you. So the civic team, your gifts are in the office too. So please make sure you get the right ones, otherwise you'll get the wrong message. I would like to thank all members across party, their help and support in the council chambers and out there in the communities when visiting various areas. Finally, a thank you to my two ward colleagues, Councillor Masarrat Pervez and Councillor Darren O'Donovan, for being able to support me and taking care of the casework, supporting the Dewsbury West citizens, and helping me my duties for the past 2 years. So thank you guys. I'm back now so you can rest a bit. Lastly, members, I want to finish over the last number of months. We have all been asked to stay away from those we love in order to protect them. I hope my 2 years as mayor can be marked and remembered as the time when we began to bring people back together and at the time we as a community pulled through. Back together as one community across this borough and district. Back together, fully enjoying and embrace this place in Kirklees we are privileged to call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. And for those who don't normally attend mayor-making ceremonies, there would normally be much handshaking, and it's quite difficult with me up here. I can't shake his hand or anything, so I'll no doubt see you afterwards. Moving on now to the appointment of Deputy Mayor. Could I please now have nominations for Deputy Mayor? Councillor Pandor.
I'm going to have the cleanest hands by the time I finish. I might have no skin left, anyway. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, thanks, Mumtaz, for the kind words. I really appreciate it. I'm delighted to nominate Mahmood Akhtar as the Deputy Mayor, and he'll be joined by his great wife, Hafiza. I know them both really well. I've known Councillor Akhtar since 1992, And the first impression I got of him was, wow, he's a snappy dresser. Because he looks smart now, but going back a few years, he had a full head of hair. He's still got more hair than me. And he was a really smart dresser. So I'm sure that he'll fill that role as being a deputy really well, and not least being dressed very smartly. He was born in Rawalpindi a long time ago. I won't tell you how long. In a village called Mayoral. And he comes from a background, and this is quite amazing, he comes from a background of teachers. I'm sure he'll tell you, fill in the details, but he's quite a shy character, but at the same time he's quite funny. But when you get to know him, you'll understand what I mean. He was also a writer for a national magazine, a national Pakistani magazine called the Jung magazine, which is still going. And it was started back in 1939, and he used to write for them various political community issues, and I think he still contributes. This goes back to 1996, and I got to know him back in 1992 through the work he was doing in the community. He started to develop the Pakistani Kashmir Welfare Association, and those of you who know Batley and have been to the PKWA Centre on Manaway, Akhtar was actually the founder member, one of the founder members that actually spearheaded that all them years ago through City Challenge back in 1995. He saw a building in Batley in the middle of Mount Pleasant, and they rented that place out, but he wasn't serving the purpose that he wanted to serve. And because he had a vision for his part of the community, he actually persisted. And now we've got this fantastic centre that I'm sure will actually go on to do great things as we move out of lockdown. He was also the secretary of his local mosque in Batley, on Whittaker Street. And some of you may remember Kirklees Racial Equality Council. He was on the executive committee for many years, and I also worked with him on there. But City Challenge was where he actually came into his own, because I could remember him sort of walking here, zooming there, making the connections and networking. And he was a quiet operator. And those of you who know him will know that he's a quiet operator, but he does it in a very polite but very discreet way to actually get things done. He sort of knows which levers to pull at what time. The land that the PKWA was built on was a complete derelict piece of land. And I'm so glad that he actually developed it, because if he didn't develop all them years ago, it'd have been an eyesore in the middle of my ward. We've got another piece of land which is next to it, which hopefully will be developed into an allotment in the not so distant future. He's got 4 sons and 1 daughter, and I think they're all here, and I'm sure they're all very proud of what he is going to achieve today. Hopefully we'll all vote for you. I can't see a problem with that, but you never know. There's always a first, so be nice to us. His wife, Hafiza, who is here today, she'll make an excellent deputy mayoress, and many of you will know that she has always been by his side. Every single annual mayor-making ceremony, she's there with him, and I'm sure they'll make a great couple representing the borough, helping the mayor doing their role to actually represent the good people of this borough. Very early days when he came to England, he had quite a severe accident, and that's why you probably see him walking with a limp. And I didn't want to tell you this story, but I think I need to. I was out campaigning with him once, and we were sort of walking around, and I said to him, "Akhtar, are you all right?" He said, "Yes, I'm fine." I said, "Your wooden leg's all right, isn't it?" And he says, he didn't say anything, but I mentioned it a few times, "Your wooden leg's all right." And he says, "Shabir, I don't have a wooden leg." So I said, "Oh, sorry, I'm really sorry," because I actually thought he had a wooden leg, but you corrected me, Akhtar, quite rightly. Anyway, he's got a lot of energy, despite the fact that he's getting on and he's got this limp. He does actually have a lot of energy. If anybody's walked with him or campaigned with him, will know that he's actually zooming all over the place. He was born in Pakistan, like I said, but he has made Batley his home, and he's truly embedded in Batley. And once he goes through the journey of being the deputy mayor and hopefully eventually become the mayor, his heart will be embedded well and truly in Kirklees. So I wish you good luck at that and Hafiza in your new role. And now for the formal wording. I move that Councillor Mahmood Akhtar is hereby appointed Deputy Mayor of the Council of the Metropolitan Borough of Kirklees for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Could I please call on Councillor Zaman to second the nomination?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councillors and honourable guests. I'm delighted to second Councillor Mahmood Akhtar as Deputy Mayor of Kirklees Council. As an immigrant from Pakistan, emigrated in the early 60s, he has lived in Batley ever since. He was first elected to Batley East Ward in 2004. A proud husband of 50 years, father and grandfather, known as Baba Akhtar, is a popular councillor of 18 years, established as a stalwart of the community who stands out from the crowd. I feel privileged to be one of the serving councillors with Councillor Mahmood Akhtar for the Batley East Ward, along with my colleague, Councillor Fazila Lunat. Councillor Akhtar is a campaigner with strong working class roots. I've seen him fight to improve the quality of life in the community to make a real difference. He has been involved with many different community organisations, projects and cultures across Kirklees. I first started to work with Councillor Akhtar in 1996 when I was a council engagement officer working in the Batley area. I worked alongside Mahmood as he was campaigning for the infamous Pakistan Kashmir Welfare Association, known as the PKWA. He went on to see this project come to fruition with funds from Batley City Challenge and the European Union. The PKWA Community Centre now stands as a legacy in his name. It's a valuable resource used by all sections of the communities. Councillor Mahmood Akhtar is one of the most selfless, caring, honest and humble individuals I know, as he continuously serves his constituents through his determination and desire to help others to create a better society. Councillor Akhtar can hardly wait to take the reins, as he has been raring to go. Sadly, we have been in lockdown and I have seen his impatience grow. Councillor Akhtar's hobbies are around learning about current affairs of British politics, as well as keeping in touch with South Asian contemporary events, especially in Pakistan. He's probably the only person around me without fail still goes out to buy his morning papers and has to definitely buy the Batley News every week, and he narrates the stories to Fazila and I. Over the years, it has been a pleasure to receive the running commentary of both local and other affairs in his unique and colourful way. The COVID-19 lockdowns have given him more time to sit at home, put his feet up, and broaden his horizons and understanding of these interesting subjects, which both Fazila and I have been on the receiving end of receiving some of the insights into his worldly affairs, including the dire affairs currently taking place in Palestine. I truly feel proud of what you have achieved, Mr. Akhtar, as a first-generation Pakistani, and even more so now that you have been selected in this honourable position. Given your personality, the role will befit well, and no doubt you will live to work up to your workaholic nature. No doubting that you will be passionate in this role because you love what you do, and that is serving others, and you work very hard at it, but you will also have little fun carrying out your civic duties. Councillor Akhtar, once again, congratulations, and I sincerely wish you all the best in this role. Before I end my speech, I guess you'll have to wait until the end of the inauguration ceremony to start posing with your newly made gown and your roller boots. Now the formal wording to be included in the motion for the appointment of Deputy Mayor. I move that Councillor Mahmood Akhtar is hereby appointed Deputy Mayor of the Council of the Metropolitan Borough of Kirklees for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you.
All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats whilst the Deputy Mayor dons the robes of office. Entertainment will be provided by Haydedge Band performing Pratty Flowers, the Home Firth anthem.
I, Mahmood Akhtar, having been appointed to the office of Deputy Mayor for the Council of the Borough of Kirklees, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfill the duties of it, according to the best of my judgment and ability. I understand to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected to members of the Council of the Borough of Kirklees.
The civic attendant will now place the chain of office on the new Deputy Mayor.
Congratulations, Councillor Akhtar. Can I please call upon the Deputy Mayor to respond?
I am pleased to announce that my wife, Ghulam Hafiza, has agreed to be my Deputy Mayoress for the coming year.
The civic attendant will now place the chain of office on the new Deputy Mayoress.
Councillor Akhtar, would you like to give a speech, please?
Firstly, I would like to congratulate Nigel Patrick and Duture on their appointment as Mayor and Mayoress of Kirklees. I wish you well for the coming year. In my role as Deputy Mayor of Kirklees, I shall endeavour to give you my full support. I also wish to take this opportunity to thank Mumtaz Hussain and Noreen for their terms as Mayor and Mayoress and for supporting the local community during the different dates of the pandemic. I feel humble and honoured to become the Deputy Mayor of Kirklees. My wife and I are looking forward to supporting the Mayor and Mayoress by going out in our local communities to meet local people. I have been a councillor since 2004 and I was encouraged to put my name forward by former councillor Ghulam Munia, who saw how passionate I was to serve the community. Since then, I have felt privileged over the 17 years to supporting communities across Kirklees. As a councillor, I have really appreciated the cooperation given to me by the different council services and officers, headed under the strategic guidance of Chief Executive Jackie Gedman and the Business Manager, Councillor Mohan Sokal. I would also like to thank my Kirklees Labour Group for selecting my name as Deputy Mayor and then as Mayor. I also, in particular, wish to thank the Kirklees Labour Group leader, Shabir Pando, for proposing my name and Councillor Habibun Zaman for seconding it. I shall feel proud to represent Kirklees Council and I will do my best to serve the people of Kirklees of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Akhtar. Minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the circulated minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 17th of March 2021 be approved and signed as a correct record. Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody like to vote against? That's carried then. Guests are now invited to watch a short film about the charity I've chosen to support during my mayoral year, Home Valley Mountain Rescue.
Back in the 90s, one of my members of family was involved in an accident, and that's when I first really got to know about mountain rescue and the work they do. They're a dedicated team and they are volunteers, and they rely heavily on donations from members of the public. And what can I say? They are for me anyway, they are a bunch of great folk that need our support.
When we started, it was walkers on the hill with not wearing proper gear. They're wearing army surplus jackets and things like that, and they were getting hypothermia. But nowadays, a lot more are adventure sport injuries, mountain bikers, people off horses. We even get paraglider crashes. We do still get the walkers and things, but it has changed a lot over the years.
What people don't realise is the massive amount of jobs that we do which aren't necessarily up on the moors and the hills and the crags. I would say probably only a third of our activities are up there, whereas 2/3 are searches for vulnerable missing people and lift and shift jobs for the ambulance service where someone's just, a few hundred metres off the beaten track but they can't deal with it.
Within the team, we have to train all of the disciplines of mountain rescue: navigation up to speed, communications, driving, medical side, rope rescue, with then control of the jobs, search planning, search management.
A lot of our jobs are to find and support, help find missing people, and that can range from people with Alzheimer's or dementia, or it could be somebody's not feeling great about themselves and they'll be in some woodland just outside an urban area.
And those can be all the way across the patch. So we've got the whole of the southern half of West Yorkshire to look at, including some sort of quite large urban centres of, South Leeds, Dewsbury, Castleford, Wakefield, Pontefract, places where you wouldn't expect a mountain rescue team to potentially go out to. We've got literally thousands of items of equipment here, things that are quite specialist that ambulances don't carry. So we've got sort of dedicated mountain rescue stretchers, we have lots of rope rigging kit. Additionally, we've got water rescue teams, so we've got guys sort of trained to DEFRA swift water rescue level, all the associated gubbins that goes with that.
I have a dry suit hanging in the room behind us in the drying room.
We're not in the Lake District, we're not in Scotland, but the weather can be really, really bleak at times.
It's not unusual to have 4 seasons in a day, or even a morning, to be honest. It just changes all the time. You need to be prepared for whatever.
We are all in people who enjoy doing fun things in the outdoors, and I think we'd all quite appreciate someone to come and help us out if it all went pear-shaped. We're fairly aware of the risks that some activities mean in the outdoors, and how much of a sticky situation you'd be in if there was nobody there to come and get you out of it.
What we do with mountain rescue, as you say, helping people, it links you into the community.
I can't kind of express how important this team is to the local community.
My father's been a member of the team. He's been a member of the team for years. I've grown up around the team.
I've been in the team 40 years, and so Owen's been involved in mountain rescue all his life.
When I was a kid, I was knocking around headquarters and that sort of thing, and it just sort of seemed natural progression for me to join when I was old enough to join.
But no, I'm really proud that he's there, and my grandson Hugh's in waiting to take his turn, hopefully.
There's no hope for him. He's going to be a member as well, I think.
It's a very rewarding thing, mountain rescue. You can get a lot out of it personally.
No, it'd take a lot for me to leave this team and ever leave the area, I think, to be honest. I love it.
I've done this for 20 years now, so it is a big part of my life. I think I would miss definitely the sort of like the camaraderie.
Being part of mountain rescue is a very privileged thing.
There's lifelong friends that have been made through doing this.
And it just becomes a way of life.
I'd just like to thank everybody who's involved in making that film. It was a bit of good fun, and I think it turned out really well. The important thing about it is that, as you just heard, it covers all parts of the borough, and in our quest to raise money for the charity and also raise the profile of the charity, we'll be holding charity events throughout the borough, right throughout the borough. So Home Valley, it's not just Home Valley, and mountains, it's not just mountains. And there are some members of the charity committee here today. They've done a terrific job, and I think we've raised at least £15,000 already, and that's amazing considering the difficult circumstances that we find ourselves in. Anyway, we're hoping to raise a bit more and be able to replace the roof on the Mountain Rescue's HQ in Marsden. So I hope members will take part somewhere along the way. Thank you for that. So now we go, it's about the end of the ceremony now. Council will now recess until 4:30 p.m. and continue with its formal business. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the worshipful, the Mayor of Kirklees, Councillor Nigel Patrick.
Thank you. Please be seated. Right, Council, we start at item 4, interests. Members who have any disclosable pecuniary interests which would prevent them from discussing or voting on any item should disclose their interests now. Are there any interests to declare? Can't see where the group business managers are. No. Moving on to item 5 then. Announcements by the Mayor and Chief Executive. Over to Jackie Gedman, Chief Executive.
Good afternoon, members. I'd like to advise you of the official return of the election of councillors held on the 6th of May 2021 as set out at agenda item 5.
Right. And then announcements from me. I'd like to welcome all councillors to the new municipal year, including new councillors, Councillors Bamford, Gregg, Iredale, McLaughlin, Ramsey, Reynolds, Sheard and Stephen. Before I move on to tributes to former councillors, I just want to make a couple of points. I'd like to give special thanks to our staff and Paradigm for their hard work to deliver this meeting and the earlier meeting. There's been an army of people working very hard in the background and they've done a terrific job. We've had a few challenges and bumpy rides, but we seem to have smoothed those out. And then just a second point, I think this meeting is going to have many challenges itself for all of us, not least because none of us have done this before in here, or not for a long, long time. I would ask that everyone is patient, and I'll run the meeting slowly to give everybody the opportunity who wants to speak, because we're going to have quite a job discovering who wants, when people put their hands up, and anybody who wants to speak has to move to the microphones. So it's going to be a bit of a slow job, but I'll try my best to run the meeting smoothly. So thank you for that. Now I'd like to invite tributes to former councillors, Eastwood and Turner. Would anybody like to speak? Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and once again, congratulations for your election of being the Mayor. You've waited over 2 years, and I think you'll do a really great job. So once again, congratulations. I can't say the word. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pay tribute to Councillor Graham Turner and Councillor Eastwood in terms of their service to this council. Councillor Graham Turner, as you know, was a very hard-working councillor. He was on my front bench. He did some exceptional hard work, and I'm sure everybody will agree that he actually worked on a cross-party basis, and he always had the best interests of this council. It's unfortunate when councillors do the seat, but we live in a democracy, and that's how it goes, but it's always difficult if you're in a situation where Councillor Graham Turner was actually quite a big stalwart in this council, and he was a big personality, and he will be a big loss to everybody in the council, and I'll find it very hard to actually get the right person if I'm elected tonight to fill his shoes. And I also feel for any councillor who stands or any candidate who stands, because when people put themselves forward, they put themselves forward in a selfless way, and they genuinely want to do the best for their community. But democracy prevails, and we've got to move on. But once again, I hope people can actually appreciate the hard work Councillor Turner did, Graham Turner, and I wish him all the best for the future. He's still in touch, he's not gone away, he's not retired, and I'm sure that he will continue to work for the betterment of everybody, not just in Denbydale, but across Kirklees. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your election as Mayor for the coming year, and I wish you every success and your deputy. So I'd like to speak on behalf of my former colleague, Richard Eastwood, but before I do that I'd like to also pay tribute and acknowledge the work and effort and contribution to this council by Graham Turner. Now, whilst myself and Graham Turner didn't always see eye to eye or didn't always agree on certain things, I knew that he worked in the best interests of the council and the authority. And I also want to acknowledge his hard work in his ward of Denby Dale, where I know he was well liked and well known and put in great effort for a number of years. I want to speak on behalf of Richard Eastwood, who unfortunately lost his seat on this occasion. It would be difficult to find a more decent, honest, hard-working person than Richard Eastwood. Richard was involved in the community long before he got elected, with the Scouts, with community groups, with Heritage Open Days, litter picking and the likes. So he was no stranger to the community where he lived and the work that took place and what was happening. And he was able to carry that on when he became a councillor 5 years ago. And he used that position to further enhance the work that we did in the Lindley ward, covering all of our communities in Lindley, Marsh, Mount, Oaks, Birching Cliff, Mount, Quarmby, Sallandine Nook. So that part of his contribution will be no longer, unfortunately. But like the person he is and the character, he will continue to do that work, just in the community with the rest of us, as we have done for many, many years. So I know he will continue to work and work hard for everybody. Elections, politics bring up varied results at times, and decisions which, we have to ponder afterwards and wonder why. But we often come up against national issues as well, which do play their part in what happens. So for those people who got re-elected, welcome back. For those people who are newly elected, welcome and congratulations. People come, people go, and sometimes they come back again. So thank you.
Can I just say, if you want to speak and if you put your hands up, we don't have to do it one at a time because the officers are taking a list of names, which is coming up on my screen here. So I'll know who's the next speaker. So if you put, does anybody else want to speak on this item? I can't see anybody. Can I? No? Okay, thank you very much. Item 6, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence, Group Business Managers? Councillor Greaves? Thank you. Any more? Oh, Councillor Smith? Thank you. No more. Everybody. So?
Councillor Sokol.
Oh, Councillor Sokol. I can only just see you there.
Mr. Mayor, can I first of all congratulate you and the Deputy Mayor on your election as Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Mr. Mayor, no apology from Labour Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. No more? Can't see any more? No. Okay, thank you for that. Item 7. Before we consider the election of the Leader of the Council, notice has been received of a cross-party motion. This matter will be considered first. Copies of the motion have been circulated. Can I invite Councillor Marchington to please move the motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and again, for you, my congratulations and good luck for the next year, Nigel. Over the last 20 years, for the majority of the time, no one party has had overall control of Kirklees Council. A number of us over those years have done our best to engage as many backbench councillors in decision making as possible, with varying degrees of success. When we had the Liberal Democrat Green administration, we had cabinet committees, we invited the portfolio holders from the various area committees to engage with us on issues. And I personally, as a cabinet member, found that very useful in influencing the decisions that I was to make. But again, it was still the choice of cabinet rather than those backbench members. Under previous Labour administration, we've had policy committees where they discussed key issues of concern, but a number of us were frustrated that those committees discussed things, but those weren't followed through by cabinet. The majority of us in this chamber would probably want a more effective engagement with backbench councillors over decision making. And perhaps even those of us who have been members of cabinet feel uncomfortable that there's only 9 or 10 of us making those decisions on behalf of the 69, let alone the 200,000 people who live in, the 400,000 people who live in the borough of Kirklees. A number of councils are using the opportunity to move back to some form of committee system. They've been allowed to do that since the 2000 Local Government Act, but a few of them have actually taken that step. And we certainly believe, and none of us believe, that it is worth exploring a return to the committee system. If you support the motion this afternoon, it does not commit us to any one system, but what it does commit us to is to exploring ways of making better decisions on Kirklees Council for the benefit of our residents, to make sure that the decision-making process is properly scrutinised and challenged, and that more of us are engaged in the ideas that are put forward for decision-making. In conversations, particularly at budget time, I know we've talked to a number of us across the parties we've looked at ideas that each of the groups have presented and said, oh, I wish I could have voted for that, I wish I could have voted for that, I wish I could have voted for that. But because of the system we have, we don't feel we can do that. We think that the committee system, some form of committee system, will be a much more effective way of doing that. It combines a decision-making process along with effective scrutiny. We do have very good scrutiny we've got our current scrutiny chair, Liz Smage, Robert Idle, pleased to see you back. You've chaired scrutiny. Mr Mayor, you were a former chair of scrutiny. And of course, Molly Walton did that very effectively for many years, and Andrew Palfreman. But again, within scrutiny, there's a bit of a frustration that sometimes we scrutinise things after the event. It'd be really good to be able to do that earlier. A committee system would allow that to take place. So what I hope we would do this afternoon is vote to allow Corporate Governance Audit Committee to explore this, the possibility seriously, to come back to the September Council meeting with some sort of proposal that we could vote on, that we could consult our residents about. And if there is a system that the majority of us in this chamber can agree on, that we would be in a position to implement that from the annual general meeting of next year. So with the intent of actually increasing the participation of councillors in decision making, to increase the transparency of decision making and to improve the quality of decision making in Kirklees, I move the motion that is in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marchington. Is that seconded? Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations on your appointment and I wish you a very successful year. I'll formally second that, Mr Mayor, and reserve the right. Thank you.
Are there any comments on this matter? Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I'm a bit disappointed that such an important decision in terms of restructuring the whole of the organisation on the back of what we've just been through, and we're still going through in terms of the pandemic. We're looking at transforming the organisation. I'm all for transformation, I'm all for better decision making, I'm all for opening democracy, and I'm all for engaging at a local level that makes our decision making processes the best that they can. We've been here before, we've had the arguments, and I think I'm not going to go against the motion, and I think I appreciate the spirit that's come here. But at the same time, I can't vote for it because there's a lot of information we need, there's a lot of evidence we need, there's a lot of facts, there's a lot of issues that we need to actually take into account because the debates we've had in the past, the work that the Democracy Commission did in the past, that's moved on. So we do need to keep on reviewing how best we can make the best decisions from the Council. And it is about decision making. What we also need to understand is how can we make the decisions, the big decisions. Because we might have our own views in terms of how the Council works, but every single party on this Council has been in power, have been on the Cabinet, and understand that there is a job to do. And it's in that spirit that I'm prepared to have a look at this. My group won't be supporting this. My group won't be going against it. My group will be abstaining in the interest of the Council. We'll see what happens when it comes back in September, I think. But I would like to continue that dialogue and also in future, if we had them discussions earlier on, it would actually have been better. But I hope my position is very clear and my group's position is very clear. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I, in this part of the meeting, formally congratulate you on taking the mayoralty and all the best for the year to come. Councillor Pandor partially answered the question that I had written on this. Why isn't it all party? But Councillor Pandor said he didn't have any detail to allow him to sign up to it. Well, that's because the detail is in the paper that it's going to be worked up to come back at a future meeting. What we're being asked to agree today is to go forward and produce that detail with all parties taking part in it. And, Mr. Mayor, when we look at a motion like this, we start to feel old, because looking around the chamber, or the hall, I realised that I'm probably one of the last people to have chaired a committee, a decision-making committee of that sort, in this council, when we had a shared administration and I chaired the Environment and Transportation Management Board, and Councillor Firth was one of my colleagues on it. The others being on there, being former Highways chairs, Peter Sykes and George Spate, God rest him, David Ridgway and David Robinson. The reason I say that is because in such a circumstance, a shared administration, the chairs of the committee have to be on top of their brief. Especially, as I say, when other members of the committee are former chairs of the same portfolio, you know that they have the experience that they're talking about. Environment and Transportation Management Board had 6 members, 2-2-2, so we had to be able to either come to an accommodation or argue our case to get it across. And I think that's something that we need to bear in mind, that this isn't going to be a one-party state. The public have spoken, nobody has got a majority, and we should be looking at how we reflect that proportional representation to move into a more mature place for decision-making, to involve more councillors. One of the things that the cabinet system takes away from us is the ability to get to know people from different groups, to work across parties and find commonality, and to find things away from the political spectrum that we can. So, whilst Councillor Pandor has partially explained why he won't be supporting it, I'm disappointed that he's not supporting the principle of fully explaining it. The chance for political debate and to see whether anybody's willing to move forward will come on the 8th of September. But I would urge all members to support the principle of looking at modernisation of this council, because for several years we've operated on the one-party mode. We've operated on the system where you are allowed to go to cabinet and speak if the leader allows you. Mr. Mayor, I found the situation where asking probing questions about transportation, the leader has said if I carry on asking him questions like that, he'll stop me asking them. How was that for scrutiny, Mr. Mayor? We then find out at future meetings of cabinet that, lo and behold, there are numerous Labour members asking questions to which they get pontifications of answers, leaving the opposition little chance of scrutiny and holding the executive to account. On behalf of our residents, we need to examine this. On behalf of our residents, we need to see more mature and open governance, and I recommend this to the Council, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Councillor Lawson.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I add my congratulations on becoming Mayor and to the Deputy and to the outgoing Mayor. We find ourselves in incredibly difficult situations and I don't envy any of you your tasks. I'll keep my comments brief. As described by Councillor Marchington, the joint party motion seeks to start the process of moving to a committee system. There's a distinction between a committee system and the committee system. I make that distinction because if we say the committee system, some of our longer standing members, Councillor Bolt, might roll their eyes and start remembering all the old gripes. This isn't about that. It's about starting a fact-finding process, comparing existing models and finding what works for Kirklees. The motion states it intends to increase transparency, increase councillor participation and strengthen council decisions. These three stated intentions are all about inclusion. Inclusion of councillors and inclusion of communities, I beg your pardon. At a time when council is about to embark on its very own inclusion committee, it seems appropriate to put inclusion at the heart of how council works. The recent Sheffield referendum shows that the public have an appetite to be more informed and more involved, perhaps not in the minutiae of everyday working of council, but certainly in the big decisions that affect them in the places where they live and work. We have an enormous task in Kirklees to rebuild post-COVID, and it's going to be a journey lasting several years. And it's going to take everyone if we're going to succeed. This motion is just one step in that journey. This is not about what's gone before, it's about the future. I recommend it to Council in the hope that you can support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations. As independents, we believe in cooperative politics. We are enthusiastically supportive of the potential to move to a committee system. We back it wholeheartedly, and we can see that this could be a tremendous change for the borough, not just including all councillors in decision making, but actually giving a voice to all our residents too. There are issues as to what system it's going to be and how that would operate. There's lots of different models, and the right thing to do is to explore what those are. It would be foolish to suggest a system here today when there's so much work that needs to take place. So we're supportive of this motion, knowing that it will take many months of work to develop a proposal, and that the earliest date that that proposal could be brought to bear is for next year. But we think this is an exciting opportunity to change how politics works in Kirklees. And in truth, we see it as the only alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cooper.
We've just been through the Kirklees elections, and the results of that election said that one of the parties here got 35% of the vote and is now seeking 100% of the power. Another party got 38% of the vote, and it too may be seeking the leadership of the council. Who knows? But what it means is that a lot of the people, 100% of the people, will not be represented. 65% of the people may not be represented on the cabinet. 65% was the number of people who are in favour of moving to a committee system in Sheffield. And so they've been through a referendum, they've been through a process. You don't have to do that. It takes a long time and a lot of effort. But they've decided to do that. And the Labour Green administration of Sheffield City Council is now moving forward and working together on that. And I think that's really, really healthy. I would implore the leader of the council to change his mind and actually support the exploration of ideas about the future. It is not a huge ask to agree to explore ideas about the future and to work together on that. That is not a huge ask. It's not committing you to anything other than thinking about the future. So I would implore him to look at that again. And for all of us, as we move forward on this journey, it's not something that we wait to see what the outcome is. We have got to be all involved and working together on choosing the governance system that we all feel comfortable with. Because we'll get better decisions. You, all of you, will be involved in it. It's not backbenchers. What are backbenchers? There won't be backbenchers anymore. Everybody will be involved in the decisions. That's the real opportunity here. It's why you all got involved in politics in the first place, to get involved, to change things, to make a better future for the communities you represent. This approach gives you that chance. And so I say again, please change your mind, Leader of the Council, and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other comments on this item? Otherwise, I will ask Councillor Marchington, right of reply. No? So we'll vote by show of hands for this one. All those in favour? Our officers. All those against? That motion is carried. We will now consider appointment of the Leader of the Council in accordance with Article 7 of the Constitution for a maximum period of, doesn't say, years. 4, I think it is, isn't it? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And may I take this opportunity to congratulate you and your deputy on your appointments, and I look forward to welcoming you into the Kirklees ward in the not too distant future. I'd just like to very briefly move and propose our leader, David Hall, as Leader of the Council. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And in seconding the proposition, could I say to colleagues, what we've just seen is someone who's willing to explore new modes of working, someone who's willing to embrace all members of council. And in that mode, David Hall is the right person to lead this council in the next generation. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations on your Mayor, and also to the Deputy. My proposal is for Councillor Shabir Panda for Leader of the Council.
Is that seconded?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Are there any further nominations? No? We'll now take a vote by roll call. As the first nomination was for Councillor Hall, we shall now move to that vote. In the event that Councillor Hall does not receive a majority of votes cast, we will move to a vote on the second nomination. So, we're doing this by roll call.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Members, if you could please indicate for, against or abstain the vote is for Councillor Hall as Leader of the Council. Councillor Pandor? Councillor David Hall. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Allison. Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bolt. Councillor Burke. Councillor Butt. Councillor Dadd. Councillor Paula Davis. Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Donald Firth. Councillor Eric Firth. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Steve Hall. Councillor Hill. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Homewood. Councillor Mumtaz Hussain. Councillor Yusra Hussain. Councillor Iredale. Councillor Kaushik. Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Khan. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Lees Hamilton. Councillor Lee Richards. Councillor Lunat. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lukic. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Marchington. Councillor Mather. Councillor McBride. Councillor McGuinn. Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Monroe. Councillor O'Donovan. Councillor Patrick the Mayor.
Was that me?
Yes.
Councillor.
Did you forget already?
Sorry. I'm so used to be called Mayor now.
Councillor Patterson. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Pervez. Councillor Amanda Pinnock.
Against.
Councillor Andrew Pinnock. Councillor Kath Pinnock. Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Sarwar. Councillor Scott. Councillor Sheard. Councillor Simpson. Councillor Smage. Councillor Anthony Smith. Councillor Richard Smith. Councillor Sokol. Councillor Stephen. Councillor John Taylor. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Uller. Councillor Uppel. Councillor Warner. Councillor Watson. And Councillor Zaman. Is it lost or carried? Okay, that motion's lost.
Just confirm that that motion is lost. If we can now vote for the second nomination, Councillor Pandor.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Andrea to roll call a bit loudly? We can't hear properly. I can't hear anyway.
Louder. Okay, yes.
I haven't got any hearing aid here.
Okay.
Needs to be at the
Thank
front.
you.
So the vote is now for Councillor Pandor, again for against to abstain. Councillor Pandor. Councillor David Hall. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Allison. Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bolt. Councillor Burke. Councillor Butt. Councillor Dadd. Councillor Paula Davis. Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Donald Firth. Councillor Eric Firth. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Steve Hall. Councillor Hill. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Homewood. Councillor Mumtaz Hussain. Councillor Yusra Hussain. Councillor Iredale. Councillor Korshik, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Khan, Councillor Lawson, Councillor Lees Hamilton, Councillor Lee Richards, Councillor Lunat, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Lukic, Councillor Lyons, Councillor Marchington, Councillor Mather, Councillor McBride, Councillor McGuinn, Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Munro, Councillor O'Donovan, Councillor Patrick, the Mayor.
That's the bit that's confusing me. Councillor Patrick, the Mayor. Against.
Councillor Patterson, Councillor Pervez, Councillor Amanda Pinnock, Councillor Andrew Pinnock, Councillor Kath Pinnock, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Sarwar, Councillor Scott, Councillor Sheard, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Smage, Councillor Anthony Smith, Councillor Richard Smith, Councillor Sokol, Councillor Stephen, Councillor John Taylor, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Uller, Councillor Uppel, Councillor Warner, Councillor Watson, Councillor Zaman. A motion's carried, Mr. Mayor.
Just to confirm that motion is carried. Congratulations, Councillor Pandor.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, could you please tell what the scores were? It seemed very close.
The scores on the doors were? So 434, against 30, and abstain 2. Right, move to item 8. Item 8 is the proposed amendments to contract procedure rules, reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, page 9. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and may I also congratulate you on taking your place for this new year, and I wish you all the best. And can I also say, members and officers, it's fantastic to see you all again in person. I'll keep my comments brief because I'm moving the next 5 motions, so I'm sure you'd all soon get sick of me. The main changes in this amendment relate to the changes for the procurement notification system due to our exit from the European Union. The amendment also provides some clarity around our minimum standards that we use for procuring goods, works and services and the recording of decisions. It also includes some additional text around grants, which of course has been a big part of the Council's work this year. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that the proposed changes to the contract procedure rules as set out within this report be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded, reserve right.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Are there any comments on this matter? I don't have any comments on this matter. Right of reply, Councillor Simpson? No? We can move to the vote by show of hands. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 9. Proposed amendments to financial procedure rules. Reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, page 55. Councillor Simpson.
At least I'm getting my steps in, Mr. Mayor. This amendment embeds the SIP for Financial Management Code of Practice within the financial procedure rules. It gives internal audit a further ability to ensure that documents they request can be seen promptly when they're working in a decentralised way, as they have been for the past year. It also includes some further minor changes, such as the addition of definitions, new timescales and adjustments of words to reflect our exit from the EU. Mr. Mayor, I move that the proposed changes to the financial procedure rules as set out within the report be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Seconded and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Are there any comments on this matter? I don't see any comments. Right of reply, Councillor Simpson? No. In that case, we'll vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 10. Proposed amendments to the Council's Constitution. Reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, page 105. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report contains a summary of the changes undertaken by the monitoring officer using delegated powers throughout the year. The main part of the report contains the proposed amendments to the Constitution. There have been minor amendments, largely ones which are clarificatory, that can't be taken by the monitoring officer to prevent future misunderstandings. For me, the key amendment within this motion is the change of the CPR 5, which will establish at least one meeting within each municipal year to invite the West Yorkshire Mayor to address Council and for members to hold the West Yorkshire Mayor to account. This has come about following a significant amount of work that has involved members from all parties and none across the Council with cross-party support. Unlike any existing regional scrutiny arrangements, this meeting will give all Kirklees councillors an opportunity to ask questions, hold the Mayor to account and help ground the combined authority within its constituent council. The wording of the amendment is not prescriptive, so as to ensure that we can amend or clarify meeting specifics in due course to ensure that we get the most out of this meeting for local members. The amendment also adds to the Constitution the Concurrent Powers Protocol, which has been agreed by the Combined Authority and all of the constituent councils. Mr. Mayor, I move that the proposed changes to the Council's Constitution, as set out within this report, be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Steve Hall. I can only just see you up there. Yeah. Are there any comments on this matter? Is there an amendment? Yeah. No comments? Oh, Councillor Ball.
Mr. Mayor, in proposing this for our consideration, the mover said that there were minor amendments. And in truth, that's what we have. But one in particular, Mr. Mayor, I would say is significant. And I would draw colleagues' attention to page 151 of the report, CPR 38, paragraph 6 for those who have it. This is, it seems minor, and it's to say that proposing anybody to chair a committee, that person must first be a member of the committee. And again, that seems relatively innocuous, but I would refer members of the previous council to a debate that we had when we were proposing committee chairs midway through the year. And we were told at that meeting, Mr. Mayor, and I'm sure your predecessor will remember his ruling on it, that it was in the Constitution that to propose someone to chair a committee, they already had to be on it. Well, Mr. Mayor, unless I'm missing something, if it was in the Constitution last year, why do we need to put it in this year as an amendment? I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, that last year it wasn't in the Constitution, and therefore the Council innocently was misled last time that we could have voted for Councillor Armour to chair standards. And that, Mr. Mayor, I say it's a minor amendment, but it's significant in that point, and I think the ruling at that time was ill-advised, and it certainly, as the start of your year, Mr. Mayor, it is a salutary lesson that whilst the Mayor is advised, the final decision on matters, Mr. Mayor, rests with you. Mr. Mayor, whilst on my feet also, I'd like to propose a drafting amendment. On page 146 of your report, CPR 35, Rule 2, Section 3 in italics, and whilst people are looking for it, it's the Council, subject to a statutory position, should not appoint the leader, deputy leader of the Council, or members of the Cabinet as members of the scrutiny panel or scrutiny and over or its panels. The drafting amendment, minor amendment, Mr. Mayor, but significant, is that we should also extend that exclusion that members of the Cabinet should not be members of strategic planning or planning subcommittees. And the reason for this, Mr. Mayor, is because those members of Cabinet are making policy decisions. Those members of Cabinet may well be in discussion with people about the future economic environment of the Council. They may be talking to industrialists, they may be talking to investors. The planning system should be remote from that. So therefore there should be no need from a group who just voted for the leader of 34 people, there should be no need to have the 9 members or any of those members of Cabinet on a planning committee. The Strategic Planning Committee has 7 members. Because surely, Mr. Mayor, the leader and his group have got such depth of talent that they don't need to swamp all the committees with the Cabinet members. They should have other members who can step up to the plate and represent. Planning should be non-political. It should allow that debate away. And I believe, Mr. Mayor, that having Cabinet members on there in this day and age is wrong, and therefore I propose that drafting amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Is that drafting amendment seconded?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that and reserve the right.
On this point, we take legal advice from Julie Muscroft.
Okay. Thank you very much. I've been asked to advise on this. The role of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, amongst other things, is to make recommendations to the Council for any change or additions to the procedure rules or to the articles of the Constitution. This isn't an amendment to an issue which was discussed at Corporate Governance and Audit Committee on the 22nd of April. It's a new proposal which wasn't discussed at that committee. Had it been discussed or raised as an issue, an amendment could have been proposed, but it wasn't. So my advice would be that the appropriate route here would be to ask that there's a recommendation, change the recommendation to ask that the proposal be considered at the next meeting of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. They consider the matter and they report back to the next meeting of the Council after the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. You do that under CPR 15.4. I hope that that's clear. I think that that is the appropriate route in these circumstances.
Thank you.
Explanation. Could I have legal clarity? As the Council is the supreme body for decision making, we are legally allowed to make that decision today, I believe. It is traditional at the Council meeting that we amend CPRs. The majority of Council are not on corporate governance and audit. Therefore, as it comes, as with any other committee, we amend, as we have done, that recommendation. We have a recommendation which I believe has been legally put and legally can be voted on, Mr. Mayor.
Can I comment, please?
Just a minute. Do you want to come in, Councillor Taylor, before?
Okay. I'd endeavoured to explain that, Councillor Bolt, earlier on. My view is that in order for the Council to consider this, it needs to have been considered by Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. That is the right route. And as I advised, had this issue been raised at Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, even if it hadn't been agreed, it could have been considered here as an amendment. It wasn't. It is a new proposal. Therefore, my view is that it should be considered at the next meeting of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, considered there, and the outcome of that brought back to this Council meeting at the meeting following the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. Thank you. That's my advice.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've listened to the advice from the legal officer from Julie, and I think it is about words and terminology. She's mentioned several times about considering. We're not asking this council to consider something. We're asking this council to exercise its right as a decision-making body to make a decision. It has the ability to do that legally. We're not asking it to consider it. My understanding is that Corporate Governance and Audit make recommendations. They don't make decisions. This is the decision-making body. We're asking this body to make a decision. We're not asking this body to refer something to another committee, to recommend something, to come back to this body, for then this body to make a decision. That procedure, you're talking about the procedural way of doing things. We're talking about legally, who is the decision-making body and where are decisions made? My understanding is legally, the council is ultimately the decision-making body. We are asking this council to exercise its right as a decision-making body to make a decision. I don't think this is particularly controversial. I think it's a very, very sensible thing to do. And I don't think anybody's necessarily going to object to it, but it is really important that this body retains its ability to make decisions and not be told that it cannot make a decision as the legal body. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Are there any other comments on this, Councillor Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like us to reflect on one of the procedure rules in the Council Procedure Rules, which is Rule 15, paragraph 10, which says that we may amend without notice any recommendation of the Cabinet or a committee. As I understand it, these are recommendations from the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, and therefore we are able to amend them without notice, and I would ask that we are allowed the right to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. So good to have a straightforward first meeting. That's a good point.
Pardon?
He makes a good point.
That's what I've responded to. Just to clarify again, it isn't a matter that was considered at Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. It is a new proposal. And on that basis, my view is that it should go back to Corporate Governance and Audit Committee and be brought back here.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We seem to be debating the same point. We have a disagreement. The council is the decision-making body. The legal advice is the legal advice. My colleague, Councillor Hall, has indicated in the procedural rules where we are able to make this very clearly. This is a decision we're making. The legal officer gives us legal advice. You are suggesting it would be more appropriate to do it in that way, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. But it doesn't mean it has to be done in that way. And we're asking for specific legal advice to say, legally, is this body able to make a decision to change a recommendation? The recommendation is to consider proposed changes to the Constitution as drafted in the report. We're suggesting that that recommendation is amended. Under the procedure rule that Councillor Hall indicated, we have the authority to do that, and I don't see why we're objecting. We should just take a vote as a decision-making body, one way or another. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lukic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take the opportunity to wish you every success in your mayoral year. It seems to me that the matter we're being asked to consider is changes to the council procedure rules rather than specific changes to council procedure rules. We've got a full copy of the council procedure rules, I believe. So, as far as I'm concerned, it appears to be in order for that, for those amendments to be made. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually in agreement with the content of the amendment, and this is what I find so vexatious, really, is that, I do actually agree that we shouldn't really be having cabinet members on planning panels. What I hear from our legal position, and that is advice that I take that as a legal position, is that we're not allowed to accept additions in this meeting. And that's what we're resting on here, is we're not allowed to take fresh stuff, just amend the stuff that's been brought to us in this meeting. Now, if I understand that correctly, then we need to find another way of going about what we want to go about. And it may take us a little bit more time than we've got today, and we may have to go and think, how do we go about making our point? But as it stands today, I wouldn't be able to, and my group wouldn't be able to, stand against legal advice that says we can't be allowed to do this. I'm not prepared to do that in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment, and congratulations, Mr. Deputy Mayor, as well. I'm not going to labour this point. It's been made before I've got up to speak, but I do believe we've been given guidance as opposed to a steer on legality, and my colleagues have made the point very well, and I believe this body has the authority, and I would ask the legal officer to clarify either yes or no, do we have the authority? We don't need a steer on the most appropriate method of doing this. Is it legal or not? Thank you.
I've provided my advice to you already. I think it's the appropriate way and the legal way to go back to Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, consider it properly there and bring it back to the next meeting of Council.
Right, I'm going to make a decision. No, I've listened. Yeah, I know, but I've already heard what they've got. Councillor Cooper, you've not spoken before.
I'd like to ask a little bit of advice on procedure. If we make a decision on this today, when can we next bring back this same item for discussion? So we make a decision today. If we want to consider this again, when can we next come back and look at this particular item if we decide now?
It will be after the next meeting of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, unless the next meeting of this council meeting is in July.
So if we make a decision today, we could review that decision in July. Is that what you're saying?
I think it would be September for the next, in terms of, because Corporate Governance Audit Committee, I think, is the next one is after the next council meeting, unless we have a special one.
So we can have if we make a decision here, we can have a second bite of the cherry later on.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Again, the legal officer is giving advice. The point that has been made, and I refer colleagues to CPR 15, which says motions and amendments which may be moved without notice. So we can move something without notice, and that is an amendment to any motion to approve the recommendations of a cabinet or committee. What we have here are those recommendations of a committee. Therefore, in complete accordance with our own procedure rules, we can move an amendment without prior notice. It's only a matter of saying, Mr Mayor, now, colleagues may well have significant planning issues coming up in their ward. We're also later going to be approving members of that planning committee. For the sake of saying that 9 people who are making significant decisions collectively, the Cabinet is a collective decision maker, not individuals, those 9 people should step back for propriety and clarity and let somebody else go on. So, in accordance with CPR 15, this is a motion or amendment moved without notice where we are amending the recommendation of a committee. I thought it was straightforward, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Lawson clarified it, and I just want to reinforce the legality. The legal officer has actually said it on 3 occasions what the position is. And I think we need to move forward. And we will have an opportunity to come back to this, but the clarification has been given, and we should take that legal advice. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, I'm going to close it down now. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In the hope of moving this business forward, I too am supportive of the intent, hear the legal advice. I would like to make a proposal, and I'm looking for a seconder for this, that we refer this matter to corporate audit and governance for as priority business for them to consider to return a decision for the July council meeting. And I would seek somebody within the council to second that.
Councillor Pandor, you seconded that? Right. Councillor Taylor. I don't want this to keep going on, though, because I've heard what you've had to say.
I'm just referring people to page 112, appointment, item number 6E.
Right.
So this report is making recommendations that includes delegating to the Service Director, Legal Governance and Commissioning to make appropriate amendments to the Constitution which may be agreed by the Council, and any subsequent amendments to the Constitution reflect those changes agreed. So if we agree to this, we can delegate to the Service Director, Legal Governance and Commissioning under this report to make those changes subsequent to this meeting. So I think there's a way forward for all of us here under that, because that is part of the recommendations of this report if we accept this report. Well, that's what it says here, Julie. I'm reading the words.
The purpose of the delegation to me is to make the changes to the Constitution, and if there are any consequential amendments as a result of the changes which are agreed in here at B, then I'm authorised to do that, because sometimes when you make a change to the Constitution, there are some amendments you need to make elsewhere to make that work properly. It's not a delegation to make a consequential amendment to something which is a completely new point, Councillor Taylor.
I was reading the line before that says, gives you delegates authority to make appropriate amendments to the Constitution which may be agreed by the Council. Then it goes on to say, as well as. So they are 2 separate things.
But that assumes that you're able to make the change at Council, and my advice is that you're not.
Councillor
Procedure Rule 15, you can.
Councillor Taylor, I don't want a discussion with the...
Thank you.
We know your point. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is my right of reply, so hopefully we'll bring this to a close and make some progress. Just want to clarify that Councillor Greaves's motion would require an extraordinary meeting of CGAC to be able to come back to the next full council meeting, but that's not impossible at all, and I think that's a fair position that's been seconded by the leader. I just want to clarify on, I must say, it's nice to have Councillor Bolt back bobbing up and down in person rather than just in the chat box. Just a clarification on the point that you first made, Martin, which has been somewhat lost in the discussions we've had subsequently, is that that point on having to be a member of a committee to be elected as chair was discussed at our last meeting of Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, and it was made clear by the legal advice that that was the correct position at the time, and the reason that that is in this amendment is to, as I said when I spoke first, to clarify the situation and prevent any future misunderstandings at future council meetings. That was all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Simpson. So it's down to me now. So what I've decided to do is to not take the Conservative amendment, but I will take the Councillor Greaves amendment, seconded by Councillor Pandor. Okay? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Right. Item 11.
No. We need to take the full.
Sorry?
Forgot to vote on the substantive.
Oh, sorry.
Substantive motion.
Okay, sorry.
It's now amended.
Vote on the substantive motion, or the motion as amended. It's a long time since I chaired a meeting. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 11. Proposed revisions of the terms of reference of Health and Wellbeing Board, reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, page 159. Councillor Simpson.
Forward, it reflects the changes to the makeup of the clinical commissioning groups within our borough, with them having merged on the 1st of April. It also provides for a representative of the primary care networks to join the board. The publication of the government's white paper on further changes to the health and social care system mean that we may be required to make further changes within the municipal year subsequent to that. But for now, I move the proposed changes to the terms of reference of the Health and Wellbeing Board as set out within the report. I move that it be approved. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any comments on this matter? No. No comments. Councillor Simpson, right to reply? No. We'll vote by a show of hands then. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Lawson. Hi. Right. Did you get that, Andrew? It's been sorted out for the next time. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for... Right. Where were we? Item 12. Yeah. Item 12. Meetings of Council, reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, page 167. Councillor Simpson.
Mr. Mayor, you'll be pleased to hear that for the final time this evening, I move that the schedule of meetings of Council be approved, subject to the amendment of the meeting of Annual Council for 2022, being moved from 18 to the 25th of May 2022. Thank you very much.
Is that seconded?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second this and just comment that I'm glad we've moved the date of the annual meeting because some of the debates we've been having today may have been smoothed out had we had more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Would have made my job easier as well. Are there any comments on this matter? No. Right of reply, Councillor Simpson? No. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried then, thank you. Item 13, to appoint the committees, boards and panels of council for the 2021-2022 municipal year, page 171, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move the approval be given to the establishment of the committees, boards, panels as listed within this report in accordance with the Council's Constitution. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Any comments on this matter, Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's actually a bit of a whinge, to be honest. I'm a member of, or have been a member of the Democracy Commission, and it just seems to have disappeared. I've raised it several times and asked that a final report, if we are closing down the Democracy Commission, should be done in a constructed way where we have a clear report that outlines all of the work that was ongoing, where that's being picked up, how that's being progressed, what has been finished. And all that seems to have happened is it just disappeared into thin air. I think the same has happened with the Climate Change Commission as well. That doesn't seem to be being continued or carried forward. And we do have this habit of having these big fanfares of doing things, and then it just all kind of disappears. So it's a whinge and a complaint really to say, please can we have somebody taking ownership of the Democracy Commission, the work that was being undertaken, the pieces of work that were not completed? Can we have a report coming back to... I mean, personally, I think the Democracy Commission should have at least one further meeting where we can review what has been discussed, we can check the progress is being made, and nothing's being dropped, and ball dropped, because just people have moved on. So, yeah, I have no problem with the proposal before us, but thought it was the appropriate point in the meeting to have a little whinge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Executive to make a comment.
Cathy, do you want to go first?
You go first then, Cathy.
Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I concur with what you say, Councillor Taylor. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Things have changed, but we could have perhaps carried on with some of the meetings, but place-based working is at the centre of what we do. Places are at the centre of what we do. I think we should have a final meeting to discuss it, to say whether it is the final meeting. I think there's so much changing in the world of politics and within our communities, so I do think that there should be a final report or some kind of meeting that we discuss to see a way forward. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Councillor Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Chief Executive.
It was just to assure Councillor Taylor that we will honour the commitment to have a final meeting and to bring a report back to Council. I think it's just there has been a bit of a pandemic and we've been dealing with that, so apologies.
Can't quite hear you.
You can't hear me? You're joking.
Did everybody else hear that? Right. Any other comments on this item? No. Right of reply, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I think the Chief Executive and Councillor Cathy Scott has explained to the Councillor Taylor, so I agree with them. Thank you. Move to the vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Just to remind you, you can only vote if you sat in your chairs, Councillor Smith. I know you're keen. Okay, vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? No abstentions. Carried. Thank you. Item 14, allocation of seats. I shall deal with this matter in two parts. Firstly, to determine those committees and boards where the requirements of sections 15 and 16 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 shall not apply. Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the requirement of Section 15 and 16 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 shall not apply to the Corporate Parenting Board, Corporate Governance and Audit Committee, Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, and Health and Well-being Board for the ensuing municipal year. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments on this matter? No comments that I can see. Right of reply, Councillor Sokol. No, thank you. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried, thank you. Item 14, Part 2. The number and proportion of committees, boards and panels. Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the number and proportion of members of committees, boards and panel be in accordance with the schedule at agenda item 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Is that seconded?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second that and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments on this matter? No? I can't see any comments. Right to reply, Councillor Sokol. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried, thank you. Item 15, members of committees, boards and panels. Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the membership as set out in the table report be approved and that the allocation of any outstanding places on any committee, board and panel or subsequent amendment be delegated to group business managers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Are there any comments on this matter? Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like some clarity, please, on page 5 of the committee report, referring to something very close to our heart in North Kirklees, the planning subcommittee heavy woolen area. It lists the proposed membership of 13 members, allocated Labour 6, Conservative 4, Lib Dem 2. Again, as an interest, Mr. Mayor, on each of the planning committees, reference to previous discussion, we have one member of cabinet on each of the planning. But of particular interest here is, it just says underneath the heavy woolen report, the independent group place is gifted to Labour. I take from that, and I'll seek clarity, because there's independent group and independent. And I suppose within Kirklees, we've got the independent group. We've got, I believe, Councillor Warner's independent still. Councillor Lukic independent. So the independent group, I believe, is the Meltham 3, if I remember right. So it's just clarity. Why have the independent group gifted a place on an important decision-making committee to Labour? Why didn't they consider giving it to another independent if they didn't want it? Why didn't they consider giving it to another political group? I think, Mr Mayor, it would be of interest to Council and the wider community, because the word there is gifted. It's in their gift. If they don't want to take up a place on a committee, that's fine. But I believe as we come forward, we have important planning decisions coming forward in Murfield, controversial decisions in Northorpe and Granny Lane. The public want to know why elected councillors are giving away the ability to make decisions. So before I can vote on this, I'd like to know that, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If we look at this page 5 of this report, the outcome of voting on this item and supporting it would be that there would in reality be 7 Labour members on that committee. That simply cannot happen. It's not possible constitutionally, because only a matter of minutes ago at item 14 the Council took a decision that that committee would consist of no more than 6 Labour members. So having decided that a few minutes ago, that the constitution of that committee would be 6 Labour members, it's not now possible for somebody to decide that that's going to be 7. Thank you.
Julie, would you like to comment on that legal matter? Samantha will comment on that. I'm instructed that they are legally gifted to give those seats to who they desire. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The use of the word gifted is not terminology we would use, but it's the terminology of the Council. That's on page 5. If you turn to page 15, you will see that we have not gifted it, but we have swapped it. And we have swapped it for a seat on corporate scrutiny. And we have to swap with somebody. Thank you.
Apparently swapped is a legal term too. Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to confirm that we have swapped the places. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Any more comments on this matter? Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I'm grateful to Councillor Greaves for drawing people's attention, because the watching public don't have these papers in front of them. So page 15, the scrutiny panels, independent group already had 1 place. So they have abdicated a place on a decision-making body and taken up an extra place on a scrutiny panel, which makes recommendations but doesn't make decisions. The term gifting, I think, is not only grammatically correct, it's legally right. You've given away the ability to make the decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Hall.
Said about the term gifted. Gifted didn't appear as a verb when I was at school, but it seems to be a verb now, to gift a place. I have to say, I can't see the point of Council considering the ratios of the political parties on all the committees that we've decided this afternoon, if then political parties between themselves are going to go away and start swapping seats on committees, particularly when the effect of it is to give one party a majority on a very important committee, when we've also decided that all committees should be proportional to the number of members on council, apart from the ones like the Health and Wellbeing Board. And I think we should look into this for future and make sure that the Constitution forbids the swapping of places between the committees just because one group decides it doesn't want to have a place on one and it decides it's going to swap with its mates to be on another committee. So can this please be taken forward by the appropriate committee to investigate before the next annual meeting, please?
Hang on, just a minute. Right, Councillor Greaves.
There appears to be some suggestion of wrongdoing here, as if this is the first time swapping or exchanging of seats has occurred. I wonder if the leader of the Conservative group could tell us whether in the past Conservatives have swapped or exchanged any seats, because I think the answer to that one is yes, they have. Thank you.
I know what's going on. Councillor Lawson. No.
Mr. Mayor, something I said was misunderstood, and therefore under the Council Procedure Rules I have a right to clarify. I wasn't saying there was any wrongdoing, Councillor Greaves. What I was asking is why you did it. Why
Councillors.
give it... Mr. Mayor, would you tell him to stop tackling from a sedentary
Councillor
position?
Ball, sit down, please.
No, it's a point of first explanation. I want to know why you gave it to Labour and nobody else.
Councillor Ball, sit down a minute.
We know the answer.
Come on, this is a fairly straightforward item. Let's not get upset about it. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be careful how I use my words here, because clearly there's people getting a little bit upset, but we've only just had an election, and it was my understanding that the independent group in Home Valley North were only just successful in that election, and Labour were a very distant third place. So I wonder if the people of Home Valley North who elected the independents would appreciate the deals that have been made with the Labour Party.
Councillor.
It seems to me, Mr. Mayor, if I could finish...
Just sit down a minute.
It seems to me, Mr. Mayor, if I would be allowed to finish,
yeah,
that if you vote for an independent in Home Valley North...
Councillor Smith, stick to the point of the item.
I think I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, we're going to end this one now, because I think we know where it's going. Right of reply, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, this Monday, the Monday gone, the business managers from cross-party, we had a meeting with the council officer to look into these committee places. Yeah? And Conservative group business manager, he was there. When we read out, especially Andrea, because given those names before, no one from any business manager raised any objection when I raised independent group. Independent group is just 3 councillors, yeah? Group is if is more than 2. Other 2 are not called group. So there was the legal term. Councillor Charles Gray gifted one place to the Heavy Bullen. So Councillor Richard Smith did not make any objection that time. I don't know the business manager of the Conservative will report back to their group or no. So I think what we done legally is right. Thank you.
Move to the vote. Move to the vote. I'm moving to the vote. Councillor Smith.
Thank you for that. I'll be brief. There was no discussion just now, Councillor Sokol, about legitimacy or the agreements made in the Group Business Managers meeting. I was just making a totally different point. Thank you.
Right, move to the vote. All those in favour, show of hands. All those against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 16, dates of committees, boards and panels. Dates and times of committees, boards and panels, page 175, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the dates and times of meeting of committees, boards and panels be in accordance with the schedule at agenda item 16. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second that and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this matter? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a problem with it. Just to clarify that the proposal we're bringing forward is amended by the previous item where we moved the date of the annual meeting, because obviously in this schedule it's still shown as the 18th of May. And then secondly, that earlier in the meeting we've just agreed to have an additional corporate governance and audit meeting so that we can report back to the July meeting. Again, that doesn't feature in this list, but I'm assuming that is included as well. Just because we've already made those decisions earlier in this meeting, so it's just seeking clarity on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Warner.
My question is really clarification about the number of meetings. Are the number of meetings, particularly for scrutiny, fixed in stone? Because the reason I'm asking this, we all know we're living in very challenging times regarding our health service and also the state of social care. And if my maths is correct, we're down to have scrutiny 8 meetings, and as it is, we are having to rush through really important decisions. And I would like to ask that, if necessary, we meet at least monthly, because we're not getting through what we need to do thoroughly enough and scrutinising on those 8 meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Smage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations, I think.
Yes, I know what you think.
It's been a bit of a meeting. Sorry, Councillor. Those are the meetings that are set by Council, but there is the opportunity to put other meetings in should the panel wish to, and we will facilitate that where we can. There is also the facility for informal scrutiny meetings as well, in order to move business on. Okay, so I am aware that that is an area that is very much a matter of change at this moment in time and does need a lot of work. I hope that reassures you. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, just to clarify on the points that Councillor Taylor made, Chair, John's right about the annual meeting. With regards to CGAC, I believe it's going to be an extraordinary meeting, so it doesn't have to be in this, so we don't need to amend for that meeting to be held. But yes, it should be amended as per the earlier motion to account for the change in the annual meeting. Thank you.
Yes. It will be amended, is that correct? Yes, it will be amended, I am advised. Okay. Is there any more comments? There's no more comments showing on my screen. So, right of reply, Councillor Sokol. No? No. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? No. Carried, thank you. Item 17, appointment of members to joint authorities, page 185, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation as set out in paragraph 5 of the report, page 186, be approved. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Thank you. I'd like to second that and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments on this matter? No comments. Right of reply, Councillor Sokol. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Item 18. Appointments to outside bodies, other committees, page 194, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation as set out at paragraph 5 of the report, page 194, be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second that and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments? No comments. Right to reply, Councillor Sokol. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? No abstentions. Carried. Thank you. Item 19, appointment of spokespersons on joint committees and external bodies. To reply to oral questions at council meetings, page 199, Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the recommendation as set out in paragraph 5 of the report, page 200, be approved. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Thank you. I'd like to second that and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments on this matter? No comments. Right to reply, Councillor Sokol. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Vote by show of hands. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? No. Thank you very much. Carried. Item 20. Appointment of chairs of committees, panels and boards and the place lead councillors for 2021-2022 municipal year. The schedule of proposed chairs has been tabled. For the positions that are not contested, I propose that the nominations are put to the vote en bloc, and then the other positions are dealt with by separate vote. To begin with, therefore, please can we vote on the appointment of all non-contested positions? Councillor Sokol.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the appointment of chairs of committees and panels be in accordance with the schedule as circulated to members of the council, and that separate vote be taken in respect of standard committee, strategic planning committee, place partnership, Corn Valley, and place partnership, Huddersfield Rural. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is that seconded?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that and reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any comments on this matter? These are the non-contested ones. No comments. Right of reply, Councillor Sokol. Thank you, Councillor Sokol. Vote by show of hands then on this. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Right, we now go to the contested chairs. We will now take a vote in regards to the Chair of Standards Committee by roll call. Please indicate as to whether you wish to vote for Councillor Hill or Councillor Watson when your name is called.
Thank you. Councillor Pandor. If you could indicate Councillor Hill or Councillor Watson.
Hill or Watson.
Thank you. Councillor David Hall. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Allison. Councillor Armour isn't here. Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bolt. Councillor Burke. Councillor Butt. Councillor Dadd. Councillor Paula Davis. Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Donald Firth. Councillor Eric Firth. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Steve Hall. Councillor Evan Hill. Councillor Holmes. Sorry. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Homewood. Councillor Mumtaz Hussain. Councillor Yusra Hussain. Councillor Iredale. Councillor Kaushik. Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Khan. Sorry, could you repeat that? Thank you. Councillor Lees Hamilton. Councillor Lee Richards. Councillor Lunat. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lukic. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Marchington. Councillor Mather. Councillor McBride. Councillor McGuinn. Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Monroe. Councillor O'Donovan. Councillor Patrick the Mayor.
Watson.
Councillor Patterson. Councillor Pervez. Councillor Amanda Pinnock. Councillor Andrew Pinnock. Councillor Kath Pinnock. Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Sarwar. Councillor Scott. Councillor Sheard. Councillor Simpson. Councillor Smage. Councillor Anthony Smith. Councillor Richard Smith. Councillor Sokol. Councillor Stephen. Councillor John Taylor. Councillor Kath Taylor. Isn't here. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Uller. Councillor Uppal. Sorry, could you repeat that? Thank you. Councillor Warner. Councillor Watson. Councillor White isn't here. Councillor Zaman. Councillor Hill is appointed, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to strategic.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was Councillor Hill. Well done, Councillor Hill. We will now take a vote in regards to the Chair of Strategic Planning Committee by roll call. Please indicate as to whether you wish to vote for Councillor Steve Hall or Councillor Donna Bellamy when your name is called.
Councillor Pandur. Councillor David Hall. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Allison. Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bolt. Councillor Burke. Councillor Butt. Councillor Judd. Councillor Paula Davis. Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Donald Firth. Councillor Eric Firth. Councillor Greg. Councillor Steve Hall. Councillor Hill. Councillor Holmes. Councillor Homewood. Councillor Mumtaz Hussain. Councillor Yusra Hussain. Councillor Iredale. Councillor Kaushik. Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Khan. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Lees Hamilton. Councillor Lees Richards. Councillor Lunat. Councillor Lowe. Councillor Lukic. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Marchington. Councillor Mather. Councillor McBride. Councillor McGuinn. Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Monroe. Councillor O'Donovan. Councillor Patrick the Mayor.
Councillor Bellamy.
Councillor Patterson. Councillor Pervez. Councillor Amanda Pinnock. Councillor Kath Pinnock. Councillor Kath Pinnock. Sorry, Councillor Andrew Pinnock. Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Sarwar. Councillor Scott. Councillor Sheard. Councillor Simpson. Councillor Smage. Councillor Anthony Smith. Councillor Richard Smith. Councillor Sokol. Councillor Stephen. Councillor John Taylor. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Uller. Councillor Uppal. Councillor Warner. Councillor Watson. Councillor Zaman. Councillor Hall is appointed, Chair.
Thank you. That's Councillor Hall appointed. Well done, Councillor Hall. We now take a vote in regards to the lead member place partnership Combe Valley by roll call. Please indicate as to whether you wish to vote for Councillor Reynolds or Councillor Anthony Smith when your name is called.
Councillor Pandur. Councillor David Hall. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Greaves. Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Akhtar. Councillor Allison. Councillor Bamford. Councillor Bellamy, Councillor Bolt, Councillor Burke, Councillor Butt, Councillor Dadd, Councillor Paula Davis, Councillor Paul Davis, Councillor Donald Firth, Councillor Eric Firth, Councillor Gregg, Councillor Steve Hall, Councillor Hill, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Homewood, Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, Councillor Yusra Hussain, Councillor Iredale, Councillor Kaushik, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Khan, Councillor Lise Hamilton, Councillor Lee Richards, Councillor Lunat, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Lukic, Councillor Lyons, Councillor Marchington, Councillor Mather, Councillor McBride, Councillor McGuinn, Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Munro, Councillor O'Donovan, Councillor Patrick, the Mayor,
Smith,
Councillor Patterson, Councillor Hervase, Councillor Amanda Pinnock, Councillor Andrew Pinnock, Councillor Kath Pinnock, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Sarwar, Councillor Scott, Councillor Sheard, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Smage, Councillor Anthony Smith, Councillor Richard Smith, Councillor Sokol, Councillor Stephen, Councillor John Taylor, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Ulla, Councillor Uppal, Councillor Warner, Councillor Watson, Councillor Zaman, Councillor Reynolds is appointed.
Councillor Reynolds has been appointed to the chair. Well done, Councillor Reynolds. We will now take a vote in regards to the lead member, Place Partnership, Huddersfield Rural, by roll call. Please indicate as to whether you wish to vote for Councillor Armour or Councillor Greaves when your name is called.
Councillor Pandor, Councillor David Hall, Councillor Lawson, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Greaves, Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Akhtar, Councillor Allison, Councillor Bamford, Councillor Bellamy, Councillor Bolt, Councillor Burke, Councillor Butt, Councillor Dadd, Councillor Paula Davis, Councillor Paul Davis, Councillor Donald Firth, Councillor Eric Firth, Councillor Gregg, Councillor Steve Hall, Councillor Hill, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Homewood, Councillor Mumtaz Hussain, Councillor Yusra Hussain, Councillor Iredale, Councillor Kaushik, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Khan, Councillor Lise Hamilton, Councillor Lee Richards, Councillor Lunat, Councillor Lowe, Councillor Lukic, Councillor Lyons, Councillor Marchington, Councillor Mather, Councillor McBride, Councillor McGuinn, Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Monroe, Councillor O'Donovan, Councillor Patrick the Mayor,
Armour.
Councillor Patterson, Councillor Bevez, Councillor Amanda Pinnock, Councillor Andrew Pinnock, Councillor Kath Pinnock, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Sarwar, Councillor Scott, Councillor Sheard, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Smage, Councillor Anthony Smith, Councillor Richard Smith, Councillor Sokol, Councillor Stephen, Councillor John Taylor, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Uller, Councillor Uppal, Councillor Warner, Councillor Watson, Councillor Zaman. Councillor Greaves is appointed, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Greaves appointed. Well done, Councillor Greaves.
Do you want to do it now? The future. I haven't got just the last one. Do it now. You've got just the last.
We'll just give you that last one, but I think there was quite a gap.
Give the last one.
Mr. Mayor, it's 37-26 and 3 abstentions.
37-26.
And 3 abstentions.
37-26. Quite a big gap. Right, finally. The meeting of the council has now concluded, but those of you who've been before, you know what's going to happen. Please remain seated for the meetings of Licensing and Safety Committee, Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, Standards Committee and Strategic Planning Committee. Andrea will oversee this.
And we'll stop recording.